So I made the Alpaca its own plugin here. It's not really part of my original consolidation project. I only came up with this idea a year or two ago, whereas consolidation dates to around 2006 or so. And again, it was, as the name implies, a take on Merger, which is the giant plugin you can get for escape velocity with as many ships as possible. Because I wanted to do a little bit more. But in any case, the Alpaca is all new, so it has its own plugin. I'm actually on the wrong resource here. There's the ship resource. Ship 199. So as you can see, I've added quite a few ships to escape velocity, and this is the resource ID I have to use. So if we look at the Alpaca, this is a very basic ship. See, I've downgraded the shield recharging. The shields are lower. Actually, no, the shields are the same. The shields are the same as a medium freighter. Cargo capacity is the same. The armor is a little bit better because I figured if it's a big, heavy, cheap thing, it's low tech. An upside of that is that they might use heavier metal in it. So that means possibly more heavily armored. And I've made it slower because it's this heavy pile of junk. The fuel is the same, again, because it's a heavy pile of junk. And I gave it the same, roughly the same weapons capacity. We take a look. Yeah, I gave it 2 turrets. Actually, it's a little bit more. 2 turrets and 2 guns instead of 2 guns, 1 turret. But it only comes with 2 lasers. Well, actually 1 laser turret. There you go. Same as, I don't know, an AS-129. I'm really going cheap on this, as you can see. And the crew is 3, as I said earlier. And the mass is pretty high. Again, it's because it's supposed to be this heavy, junky thing. And the price is low. Not the lowest thing imaginable. It's actually 300,000 credits. It's more than I remember it. But the fact of the matter is that if this is cut down to a commission, it's 30,000. If it's cut down to a rent, it's 3,000. So if you're carrying a very valuable commodity in dangerous parts of EV's universe, you could actually make a profit with this ship and not lose it so readily, because the cargo capacity is 400, which is only 100 less than the bulk freighter. But unlike the bulk freighter, you're not going to lose 1 or 2 ships on every trading run. So in the end, you come out ahead. And it's still challenging. It's not easy. You're not like spending the same as a bulk freighter with all this extra capacity, and you're not carrying as much. You wouldn't have as much income from it. But by and large, this is, I think, a viable addition to the escape velocity universe. Now, we might as well look at the other aspects of shipbuilding here. So escort AI wimpy trader, it should be. I mean, even though it can fight, it is vulnerable, so I left it there. A long name, communications name and short name. I didn't want to get fancy with any of those. Now, down here, you can see the Shan mentioned earlier, and that links to the sprite. Target picture. This is pretty easy to make. All you have to do is make a computerish, 1980s computerish outline of the thing. I did not make a very nice one, actually. But if I release this to the general public, I may improve on that. The shipyard picked is even easier, because all you do is take the model that you made the sprite out of and turn it into a maybe 3/4 side view, 2/3 side view. It's kind of a judgment call. And it looks fine. And then the descriptions, you have a shipyard description for buying it and an escort description for hiring it. So let's take a look at all of those things. So here it is. We have, like I said, it's a green. This is the target view. It's just a green outline, like what you might see in a 1980s computer, or more importantly, a 1980s sci-fi film. And in theory, the I'm saying here split open hold. This is because in theory, the Alpaca would split open like a lot of cargo airplanes to load and unload. The maneuvering thrusters and the engines are based actually on real-world NASA designs. But of course, with present technology, you wouldn't be able to get this to work because you don't have enough fuel capacity for the main engine. But this is sci-fi. And as I've said, there's quite a lot of junk science in escape velocity, actually. This is the shipyard view. And it's supposed to look like it's welded together from recycled, steel or whatever. It's supposed to look like a pile of junk. And there's not a whole lot to say about that. You just create this, like I said, by doing a side view in perspective of some kind in whatever 3D graphics program you're using. It's much easier to make than the sprite, that's for sure. This is the Shan. So see, I've copied the medium freighter, essentially. You can see from the weapon positions. But I have used the larger bulk freighter sprite, so that's why the base X and Y size is larger. And like I said, that's to avoid overlap between each frame. In theory, that shouldn't be a problem, but it is. It's just that the medium freighter sprite, like a lot of sprites in escape velocity, is cut a little bit too close, actually. And it's surprising the original worked at all, actually. So there we have the resource ID of the sprite itself and the number of frames, 36. Following, like I said, a pretty popular ratio where you turn the model 10 degrees on each render. And as we saw before, this is the sprite, 72 by 72 pixels. As I said, you see I needed a little bit more room around each frame. And it's 36 frames, of course, 6 by 6. Which is, as I said, a pretty popular ratio. And this one more or less works. And obviously the mask was auto-generated when I imported this. Very simple. If I have any complaint about this, is that the lighting didn't come out as nicely as I wanted it to. The original lighting in Blender, because I modeled in Blender like I usually do, looked fine, but it just didn't turn out as well when I built the sprite. But that's life. It's actually a reasonably decent model in terms of escape velocity standards. Now, one other thing I should show you before we do the actual modeling, which is really the new thing I have to show you here. Figuring out where to put the light source in Blender was a challenge, but if you look at this model, this was the largest ship ever built for escape velocity, the Aztec's Hulk. The hull of the ship doesn't turn when the ship turns, only this engine pod does, if that's the correct term. And it has a shadow, which is really nice because it gives you a sense, well, the light source goes over here, right? So that was just something I wanted to add, is that the light sources in escape velocity appear to be in the upper left, although the Confederate cruiser and battleship have it in the lower right, so I can't really explain that. And also one other thing that I almost forgot. I almost forgot that you have the descriptions. So if you remember, in the ship, you have the resource IDs. You have the description resource IDs here, shipyard and escort, and then in the plug, you have them here, there, and there. And of course, descriptions in escape velocity are more general. This could also be for planets, could be for spaceport bars, for all kinds of things. But these are just basically text files, plain text. So, there's the description, and there's a description. Very simple. So in the next video, I'll cover modeling, and you'll see the actual original material produced. Thanks for watching.